The humble cross-country bike has really evolved over the last decade. 10 years ago, a carbon hardtail with mechanical 2x10 speed group set was considered the pinnacle of XC World Cup racing. Fast forward to today, and we're seeing 120mm full sussers with dropper posts and electronic gears. And I think they're really blurring the lines with the new, hotly contested downcountry category. Anyway, here are our favourite cross-country and downcountry bikes that came out in 2022. Cross-country itself has become a bit of a broad term recently. What you would choose to race an XC World Cup as fast as possible for, say, an hour and a half is very different to the bike you would choose for an all-day ride in the backcountry with your friends. Hence, we'll be talking about XC bikes as that purely race-oriented bike, and we'll be talking about downcountry as those cross-country, backcountry mountain bikes.
Yeah, so cross-country bikes will almost always be 29-inch wheels and tend to have 100mm of travel, and like Anna was saying, sort of the more backcountry orientated bikes are popping up to 120mm. Although that said, in XCO, which is like the elite level of racing, you're starting to see the courses getting much more technical, and accordingly you're starting to see bikes creep up in travel that are still race bikes but with that 120mm travel. It's a really exciting time because you're seeing much more technological advancement in probably the last couple of years, and we've seen in probably the decade, I'd say. So kind of refreshing what's probably the oldest of the mountain biking disciplines and the only current Olympic one.
So Orbea only just crept into this hot bikes by releasing a new one at the end of 2022. They did previously have the Orbea Oiz, which was a 100mm XC bike, and they also had a 120mm Oiz TR, which was their longer travel trail or downcountry bike. But now, with people going into 120mm full sussers in the World Cup scene, Orbea have laid their chips down on the table and said, well, we're just having one. We're having a 120mm XC bike, and this is it, the brand new Oiz. Check this out on screen. It is an absolute beauty. This new weapon is 120mm only and 29er only. It has been redesigned from the ground up around that new suspension platform. It increases the bearing sizes for lateral stiffness, but they've also gone for a pivotless rear triangle, which helps to reduce the weight that usually comes with the more bearings, but also gives it 12% stiffer. And all of this has come with a similar weight to their previous 100mm suspension platform. So for a frame, you're looking at 1,750 grams, or just shy of 10 kilos for a complete bike. Geometry, we're looking at a head angle of 67 degrees, which is much slacker than the XC and the Trail previous model. The seat angle is steeper at 72.5 degrees, and the reach is almost 20mm longer than the previous across the board, ranging from 425 for a small up to 496. Now, Orbea say they've lengthened the reach, but they've actually shortened the stems on their specs to give it a much more confidence-inspiring bike overall. Now, they'll also be featuring the new Okuo, which is the Orbea's branded wheels, which I think absolutely looks stunning. And of course, you will get the Myo, the custom ability to, well, custom spec your bike, but also custom the paint job. Although I've got to say that Tanzanite and raw carbon look on the Pro just looks stunning. I don't think I'd even bother with a custom color because it looks so good.
They do the paint jobs well, that's for sure. Okay, the BMC Fourstroke. Now, in my eyes at least, this is probably the coolest looking of all the XC bikes. Maybe I should say hottest looking. And it's better than ever. So already it had a low slung top tube, it had a really long front centre on it, and you ran it with a slightly shorter stem, and it had pretty radical geometry by XC bike terms, but now it's much better. Right, so there's two versions, there's 100mm and there's 120mm. It's got an integrated dropper post that actually on the race version, which is 100mm travel, has an auto drop feature. I'm going to get to that in a minute because that is the cream on the cake. But here's a few shots of the bike in question, and let's run through some of the cool stuff on there. So, like I said, two frame models. There's the regular 100mm and there's the LT model with 120. It's using an APS dual link suspension system, which has been totally revised from the previous system, which looked the same, but the new system essentially has a lower amount of anti-squat on it. So they're thinking about climbing performance here because people are going to be hammering through the pedals as they're climbing up stuff. A bit different to what you want on a longer travel bike. You actually want this bike to feel plush when climbing. The suspension actually is fairly progressive on there anyway, so it's actually a really good thing. Now the rear triangle also has an additional brace on the left hand side. It's much stiffer to cope with the intensity of what's going on in cross-country racing. You can fit modern 2.4 tyres, you can fit 2 buckle cages in the front triangle on the down tube alone. And geometry on the bike, you've got a 66.5-degree head angle, so that's pretty wild for a cross-country race bike. 75.6 on the seat angle there, 4 sizes, small through to XL. Of course, there's 29 throughout. 437 to 500mm in terms of reach, so it's plenty big enough even for the tallest racers there. It's got the integrated dropper post, which is the neatest seat post on the market. And now on the race model, which is 100mm travel, it has an auto drop feature. So Tito Corrado, one of their racers, basically said that he used a dropper post up to 100 times during a race. And one of the most tiring things in a cross-country race at high intensity is literally squatting just to put your dropper post down. It might not sound much to many of us, but when those racers are going at the top level, every little thing counts. So the post has a capacity to lower itself at the push of a button up to 100 times. After that, it becomes a regular seat post, a regular drop post, so you can actuate it by engaging the button and sitting down, and it will return as normal. But 100 drops you can get in a race, which I think genuinely that is a game-changing feature for the XCO racers out there. Maybe not so much for you or I, but it is super cool. Yeah, and there we go. And then pricing on the bikes retails from 4,299 euros up to 12,999. So pretty wide range there. But for me, that thing is just awesome looking. And that dropper post, come on, everyone else should learn from that.
Now the next bike isn't exactly released this year to the public, but it was in the public realm, and I'm going to be looking at an EWS rider's Instagram for this. This is Cecile Ravenel, and you must be thinking, well, why are we looking at Cecile Ravenel? Well, she was the technique coach for Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, which you should know if you follow XC World Cups, and she was riding around on a raw aluminium Commencal with those blue RockShox Sid forks. And what's exciting about that? Well, Commencal don't do an XC bike, so what is this? They're coming into the market with something brand new. We've even seen some of the male Commencal riders mucking around on XC bikes too, and they just look really good. We've actually started to see some come through with paintwork on later in the year as well, which is making that bike looking very close to finished. And what's exciting about that is Commencal typically have a bit of a distaste for carbon. So this prototype is probably very close to what we will see in a kind of raw or a painted aluminium finish. And if that is with RockShox 120mm SIDS on the front there that we're seeing, then I think this is a really fresh and exciting downcountry, typical mountain bike, cross-country bike breaking through here. I think they're one to watch.
Alloy in XC.
Why not?
I like it. Okay, next one, the slightly unusual looking Niner RKT RDO. You could say RKT as Rocket because that's exactly what this thing looks like. Now, Niner were the only brand that completely committed to 29-inch wheels when they're pretty much readily available. So back in 2005, they were like, yeah, we believe it, let's have a brand and let's just smash this. So to start with, they were just producing essentially rigid bikes, beautiful looking frames, and then they progressed all the way through to massive enduro spec travel bikes. But it's this XC race bike that's unapologetically a 100mm weapon of a bike that gets my eyes. And one of the things I've always loved with Niner bikes is a little slogan it has at the top of the top tube there, and it just says pedal damn it. And I think that tells you everything about who they want this person to be when you sit on that bike and rip. So a 29-inch wheel bike, obviously with the brand Niner. 100mm travel there, it's CVA suspension, front and rear lockout on the bike. It can accept 120mm fork on there as well, so it is strong enough to accept that, and if you fancy treating the bike like a bit of a brute, it will love it. So it's got geometry flip chip on there, so you can tailor the geometry on the bike as well, and it will accept up to 2.5-inch tyres on there. So I think that's pretty telling about the fact that although it is an XC race bike and they're sort of making sure you know that, you can do a bit more on the bike. And they do actually say in some of the blurb, it's a trail country bike, whatever that means. I mean, trail country, down country, up country, XC, DC, whatever you want to call it. It's a hardcore cross-country bike if you want it to be. Full sleeve internal routing. Thank you for that. That just makes everyone's life easy. We just feed a hose in, it comes out the other end. Geometry, 68-degree head angle in the 100mm setting there. Bear in mind you're going to lose a couple of degrees when you pop up to 120 on the front there. Seat angle 75 degrees, that's all good. Chainstay 429mm, so it's pretty slammed for the big wheels. Extra small through to extra large there, with reach from 405 up to 497. So not too big, but actually a pretty good size there for a cross-country bike, because you do want it to be nice and light and be able to throw it around. Lifetime warranty on there, 6 build options and 2 colour options. This is the one I like though, the one we saw at Eurobike. I think that thing looks badass.
2022 saw Cannondale drop the Scalpel HT, back by popular demand, the Scalpel hardtail, and it looked absolutely beautiful. It was marketed as the pure racing bike, and it just got me thinking, the Cannondale Scalpel has to be one of the most versatile models on the market. You've got the HT, you've got the FS, the full sus version, you've got the high mod, which is super lightweight and bling. You even got women's specific versions of each of those models. So check this out on screen. This is the HT, the Scalpel hardtail. It comes in 100mm or 110mm. The Scalpel HT has 5 builds starting from £2,600, with the geometry is size dependable, which I really respect. The head tube angle is 67 degrees, with the seat tube angle ranging from 73.2 up to 75 degrees, depending on the size. Also, the chainstays are also size dependent, ranging from 430 up to 445 for the extra large. Reach is obviously dependent on size too, with 410mm up to 470mm. Generally, Martin Ashton's not the only Cannondale fan around here. I think they look great.
Well, there we go. That's 5 of the hottest XC bikes, certainly from our perspective. I know we've argued about these quite a lot, and they're the ones we agreed on, so I'm sure some of you are going to think there's going to be some other ones. Let us know in the comments, but there's a few that we've got to talk about still. A couple
Honourable
of runners up.
mentions.
Yeah, the Trek Super Caliber. Like, it's not a bike that I would ride, but it's beautiful. I absolutely love this thing, and I get it. I get who it's for. With that structural inline shock on the top tube, it's a piece of kit and a half.
Absolutely agree, and I've got to say the Merida 96 as well. Merida don't get enough love, but they're good bikes, good looking bikes, and I'm loving the two-tone paint jobs that they're bringing to the market. So that is, yeah, one to watch. What, another one?
Giant Anthem.
Yeah, what about the Vitus Rapide as well? What about that?
Yeah, there's some awesome XC bikes out there.
Too many to mention, but let us know down in the comments below which one was your favourite and have we missed one out. Let us know and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.
It's all right.